Hey guys, so today I just wanted to make a really quick video on why we tilt and what we can do about it, because I've been doing a whole bunch of research recently and looking on forums and finding out why players are tilting and what they're currently doing about it to try and fix it. And sort of what I discovered is that we're really scratching the surface of like what's actually causing these problems, and the solutions that we have are very short term instead of long term. And so I wanted to start off by just telling a little story about how players what it would be like to not tilt at all, and to sort of like to get you to understand how we can better approach this. And so I want you to imagine a player that's never played poker before and has had like a perfect life up to this point. There's been no problems, they've done everything great, they have no emotional baggage, anything like that. When that person sits down at a poker table, what's the chance that they're going to tilt? Even after an hour or so, there's very, very little chance that that player is actually going to tilt, because they have no experience that's going to trigger them. There's nothing that's going to trigger them to tilt. And so if we look at it from that way, it becomes very clear the kind of work that we need to do in order to stop ourselves from tilting. And that is to address what is actually going on or has gone on in our past, so that it no longer affects our future or our present. And that's what I would describe as why we tilt, is because we have all of these like past experiences built up. It might even be built up even just through the sessions you've been playing recently, or that very session right then and there that you've been experiencing. You might have been experiencing some really bad luck, and you have some tilt built up from that bad luck. And all it take is to go back over that session and understand that it was just variance, like I was getting tilted because I was just unlucky, and instead the next time that happens, coming up with some response that works for you, that won't cause you to tilt in the future. And so where am I going with this? So so you have all of these things that have been built up in your past, and what you really want to be doing, especially if you're taking any sort of sport seriously, it could even be work. If you want to take what you're doing seriously and not be emotionally affected when things happen, it's to make sure to work on those things proactively instead of reactively. Because if we're working on things reactively, we're sort of never going to catch up with ourselves, especially if we've had like a terrible childhood or a terrible like a really hard life leading up to this point. You're going to have so many things that are already working against you, and so as you're accumulating more and more things that have been building up, there's more and more reasons for you to tilt. So I think that if you're taking any sort of anything seriously, you want to perform at a high level, then working regularly on breaking down those things that have happened in your past that may cause you to tilt, and exploring those either by yourself or with another person, challenging those thoughts, and then finding a response that you change it to, is going to change those things at a root level. And you won't be tilting because of those reasons anymore. And any sort of tilt that you have, like imagine you work through everything that you've been through, you'll be like that person that has a blank slate, like no reason to tilt. And so the only thing that's going to cause them to tilt is the things that have been building up in the present moment. And which is great, because I mean, it's like if you look at any sort of pro player that does work on this stuff, like the amount of times that they tilt compared to someone that doesn't is incredibly small. And that's what the goal is. The goal is to decrease the amount of probable times that you can tilt, so that you can play at your best. So that's two things: why we tilt and what we can do about it. I would say that if you want to work on this stuff, if you want to be proactive about working on your tilt, there's two ways that you can do that. The first way is understanding what the problem is, and I think reading the book The Mental Game of Poker by Jared Tendler really helps with that, because he sort of gives you a lot of different ways like to name different kinds of tilt, because that's really important. That's half of the problem, to recognize something, to name it, and then the other half is just to find the solution. And then I guess the other half is to find and implement it. And I think in this book he also goes over some ways in which you can view the problem so that it's no longer tilting. But really you have to go a bit deeper than that. I would say that that's still service level. I'm sure you've been through the experience where you've recognized that you've tilted, and you've said, oh, this, maybe you've read the book before and you've said, oh, this is that. I just have to think about this thing instead. Like, it's not as bad as I thought it was. But then like a week later or even a day later, you've noticed that you're still tilting because of the same reason, and it's because you haven't addressed the root cause. So the second part of the problem, the first part, being aware of what it is, naming it, having that part of the problem solved, and then the second part is addressing the root of that problem. And with that part, you can do this yourself. It sort of requires a lot of introspection and a lot of like the ability to sit with yourself and really challenge yourself, which I think is incredibly difficult to do. I think a much easier way is to approach it in the way that say a therapist would. Like, ask a friend that is going to truly listen to you, and ask questions that's going to help you get deeper into your subconscious and really challenge that thought pattern. Or get a coach. That's sort of the services that I offer, plus a whole bunch of more stuff. Go to a hypnotherapist, go to a therapist, any of those things, and do it regularly. Like, you want to be doing this every single week, so that you're slowly chipping away at all of the things that you've built up over time. And slowly chipping away at the things you've built up over time, and then also addressing any problems that are occurring very recently. But yeah, that's how I view it and how I would approach it. If you guys are interested, I am still doing free consulting calls. Get in quick. The link is down below, and I'll see you guys next time.